Hey everyone, welcome back to the Biz Talk Show. I'm really pumped up. I have a really awesome guest. You might have seen him over on LinkedIn. That's where we actually got connected. His name is Brian Fretwell. He's a founder of Finding the Fires, a TEDx speaker, and has 52,000 followers over on TikTok. Thank you, Brian, for being a guest today on the show.
Thanks for having me. Excited to have a conversation today.
First, I would love to know what's Finding the Fires? What is that all about?
We're in the middle of a rebrand. So Finding the Fires is a program we run, but
Okay.
we're 3 months into a startup and we're rebranding the startup. Our company is called People Strength. You can find us at peoplestrength.com, but you can also redirect from findingthefires.com. It's really a program about connection and how to create validation, recognition through asking better questions and learning to both listen, but also learning to be heard. It's kind of a simple program, but we found it's a lot more impactful than, quite frankly, I was planning when we started it a year ago. We're starting to employ it in whole corporations. We have individual memberships, and we're helping people understand the importance of connection and the importance of being heard, but also creating spaces where that can happen consistently.
In your bio on LinkedIn, you mentioned most people are not good listeners. And I think that is 100% true. Figuring out how to listen, but also be able to figure out what that person needs. I don't know if you're gearing it more to people in the workplace or helping companies be able to help their culture out and understand their employees better and giving that validation.
A little bit of both. I was actually going to make a video, but I'll make a video on it soon. I made one on a book called Together by Vivek Murthy. And that book talks about loneliness as the biggest health epidemic in the country. And this was prior to COVID. And so all you need to do to see where the problem is actually a business problem is the loneliness statistics and the disengagement statistics look hauntingly similar, especially the younger a person gets.
Oh, yeah.
Right? The loneliest folks are generally the youngest folks, if you look at that on a spectrum. Now, there's an interesting thing to consider on that. The older you are, the more likely somebody asks for your opinion. The younger you are, the less likely that's happened. And why I use that analogy about asking is this is what we're doing on the calls is asking somebody what went well in the last week because of you. What's an impact you had? What challenge did you overcome? And we are biologically hardwired for that connection. And without it, we struggle a lot. So why it's a business problem, but also we have a lot of coaches that we're training to help bring this to their people. We're really training the trainer organization. It's a way to give the kind of the primary need so that skill development can happen. One of the biggest reasons we're bad at listening is because we don't have channels for being heard. Hard to listen if you don't think anybody else gives a darn.
That's so true. I think this fits in great with TikTok because it is a platform that you get to express yourself and people are listening there. There's a lot of great engagement going on. I'd love to know because you come from a really professional background and TikTok does have a lot of misconceptions. There's probably some people that are in your organization that are like, Brian, why are you even on TikTok, man? Like, what's going on there? So I want to know what your story was. How'd you get there? And what were your expectations coming into it?
TikTok was and is a place to experiment. In the last year when the pandemic hit, I was traveling 42 weeks a year. I was on planes and delivering in person, and all that went dark overnight. A lot of people went right on to video speaking, things of that nature. I just started this project and we got 3 months into it. Like we were just starting a Zoom call where people are, learning to ask questions, and we're experimenting with how long, how many people, what types of questions. There was a whole lot of work that started going in that. But once we started to see the effect it was having on people, like skill development, I've been in the training industry my whole life and we were not training anyone. We had a little 10-minute intro where I talk about here's what we're focused on today, here's where the question comes from. And then it's folks getting into groups of three, but getting in there and having a specific time where they could be heard. And about 3 months in, I decided I was going to not do anything but this until December. So maybe a sabbatical, if you will. Telling my wife, I'm not going to make any money until December. and to be lucky enough to be in the position to do that. But along that, the whole 10 months for me has been experimenting. And that's where TikTok came in. I'm a speaker and I started watching some. And then I thought, well, I'm going to just play with this 1 minute piece because as a writer and a speaker, Twain has that, famous quote of, if I had more time, I'd write less. And so it just requires a lot more get to the point, make it effective,
Yes.
get the hook. The story arc worked really quickly, plus trying to figure out the algorithm and doing it all without getting caught in the I'm going to do these things just for likes
Yep.
and staying true to the no, I made this and it felt like the thing I wanted to say. If something takes off, I try to have the barometer be more like this is something that just felt right.
I had on my show with Giselle Ugardi, me and her discussed this, saying that there's a big issue with people that are posting the wrong content because they're just driving for those likes versus just being
Mhm.
authentic to themselves and making content they really want to. And I can tell by your account, you're one of the more authentic accounts I've seen because I can feel it. You're speaking from the truth, you're speaking from the heart. You can almost feel that authenticity there where you don't care about the views. If you impact one person, you're grateful for that. And that's the aspect I see of accounts that have the most success later on are just ones that are true about the content they want to make. And the viral videos I find, especially the content you create where it's educational speaking, is you could just see it on those videos of people just being happy and authentic and
Mhm.
don't care.
It's funny. The more I care, the worse they do. Like
Exactly.
bring them back sometimes to show my wife, and I was like, "Well, what's the level of dork on this video?" And they're pretty high generally, but it's also getting comfortable with that. I'm not the
Yes.
25-year-old like what do they call it, a thirst trap or whatever. Like nobody's coming to my site because I can't wait to see Brian again. They're coming to my site because okay, I can put up with this level of dork because maybe there's some actual content and for me and really what the company is about is just helping people feel a little better about whatever it is they're doing, understand they're part of something
Mhm.
even if they're not hearing it.
It's true. We all crave that validation at the end of the day, regardless of what we're doing. Being able to do what you're doing and teaching people that, hey, you are making a difference today. You are doing something grateful for society at any level is so powerful, and people want to hear that. And I think it's something that I'm grateful that you're bringing up and talking about it so much more on the app. You've had some success in your first 25 videos. I counted, you had a video with 3.1 million views.
Mhm.
You had one recently with what we were talking about validation, and it's nearly at a million views. I thought it was extremely valuable, and I want to share that specific video
Oh, sure. Yeah.
with people right now, and we could talk about that because I think it's really powerful. I'm gonna play that right now for us.
Tell me a story that happened at work that still has you shook.
When the pandemic started, my job kind of shut down, so I started running an experiment. Now, prior to the pandemic, I'd spent 10 or more years consulting on culture, neuroscience, and engagement, but I'd always been curious about validation. Now, validation is simply being heard, seen, or recognized for something you contributed to, being able to see that in yourself or having other people do it for you. Now, for this very unscientific experiment, we ended up getting about 150 people, and they asked one simple question to the other person, and that is, what went well in the last week because of you? And what was shocking and heartbreaking was how many people couldn't answer or broke down during the answer because they had never been asked that kind of a question before, which means they likely went days, weeks, or months without even being recognized for what they contribute. And it's hard to comprehend the amount of loneliness that can be behind that. And 10 months later, my business is no longer about engagement. It's about
I love how you said you changed your entire business mindset of going from engaging to validating. That's really critical. I'm going to use my experience with employers I've worked with in the past. I've had some really bad jobs, and you've mentioned it in a few of your videos as well, saying, "Hey, you worked for an employee who gives you 2 reviews a year, and basically it's all about what you're doing wrong." I've worked for people like that, and you feel lonely in your job, you feel not valid, you don't feel like you're contributing. And I've also worked for places I've loved where I was working. I decided to go more entrepreneurial and leave that 9 to 5, but the last job I had, their focus within that organization was all about culture. They were really good about talking to people and be like, "Hey, you're the man today. You rock. I'm grateful for what you do. And to get into that workplace literally was a wait list. People wanted to come work there and there was zero turnover. People
Yeah.
were staying over their retirement because they were so happy with where they were. There was people that are over their 70s just loving what they do and staying there. What you're teaching is really critical for businesses to thrive. I loved that video.
No, I appreciate that. I've worked a lot in the heavy industries and had this conversation a lot of times. 40 years ago, you could be employed in an organization and validation wasn't a big thing because you had a lot more certainty. You know what I mean by that is like you could go to a job for 30 or 40 years, get your pension, plan to retire, things of that nature. And that sort of calms some of those regions down when that certainty isn't there as much. And especially the younger generations, they don't have that. Nobody's going to a job anymore expecting to be there for more than 5 years. What starts to roll around the back of the head a lot is what's next, what's next. And it's a question of like, am I accepted here? Am I part of it? And when you have a certain environment, when you're in there and you know you're going to retire there and all that, those questions are answered indirectly. And what we have is now a disconnect where we have these old behaviors of only talking to you once or twice a year on the feedback, only telling you when something's going wrong, but the environment has changed. Those behaviors that might have worked 40 years ago only create really bad culture. And it's not because people are different, it's because the environment is different. The need of an individual to feel like they're part of something has been consistent for millennia. We can see it in the brain. There's specific regions of the brain that if the individual doesn't feel connected, then it starts to kick in the fight or flight mechanism. And over time, that can be super unhealthy. And that's where that loneliness bit comes in. I think businesses are the area that we can have the biggest impact on that because that's where people spend the most of their time. And if you're spending 40 plus hours a week somewhere and you're not feeling seen, not only is it bad for productivity, it's just bad for society.
I could not agree more. That is something that I'm really passionate about as well. It's scary too, because a lot of people, like you said, they feel stuck because they might not know there's other opportunities. So they think this is it. This is what's paying the bills. And that's another sad thing as well, that they're just really lonely and depressed and there's no validation and they're stuck in this place.
Why we have the membership and why we're helping coaches create some of these, we call them workouts or like a gym membership or something. But why we've designed the program like it is and what we've discovered the last year is if you're not getting it in your job, you can get it within your job, meaning like we don't have to wait for the boss to do it, right? And we shouldn't. And I've been that boss, by the way. I've been the non-validating. I did a TikTok the other day on seagull management. I've been the seagull manager. You fly in, crap on everything and leave, right? And it wasn't because I was doing it. I just had so many things going on until somebody pointed it out and I felt horrible about it. Why we're approaching it as questions and the FIRES model, and we give access to so much of the stuff that we've designed for free. We say, go and try it out on your own. But if you have one other person that you work with, that you can connect with, and why we use these FIRES questions is about like clarifying what you do well, clarifying your influence, and you have 10 minutes a day or an hour a week with this one other individual. What it does is it starts to build the confidence so you can either push back where you're at or you can have that confidence to leave. Because without that recognition and validation, what happens is an individual can't see opportunities that are in front of them legitimately because they're so focused on the pain that's in front of them that it's actually hard to see any other option.
I think everybody has been there at that point that feels completely lost. They can't see anything, just this never-ending path of darkness that we're on. I've totally been there. Creating somebody you can trust and talk to that can help you see those things. I've also been in that situation where I've worked with coworkers that have been that source for me. In fact, one of my most toxic jobs, we validated together within a little small group. There was like 4 of us that said, hey, we deserve way better than this. Let's rally together and leave. And we actually all left around the same time. And to this day, we're all really good friends because we helped each other out to support each other and be like, no, what we're doing is awesome. We need to be somewhere where somebody sees that.
What you're describing is exactly what I've done a lot of culture consulting over the last 15 years. And what you've described is what happens when I don't feel connected is I go and create connection. Now, here's the interesting thing for humans is we need connection so much that we'll get it in a place that we actually know it's not beneficial for us. And what I mean by that, you see these cultures in organizations where people are just now working against each other. And what you described was actually pretty positive. We know we're good. What mostly happens though is these subcultures create just to have professional bitch sessions, basically. They actually cut each other off at the legs because they're connecting, but they're connecting to be like, oh, did you know what so and so did? And there's a lot of gossip in there.
Yes.
And it's because we need that connection more than anything else. I talk a lot in my keynote that some of the places to learn how important, impactful, and performance improving validation and reinforcement can be is gang culture, terrorists, and other extreme groups. They feed on it, right? What they do is they find individuals that do not feel like they're a part of something, and they allow them to feel a part of something. I taught in a juvenile corrections facility, and there were more self-aware 16-year-olds that were in there for drugs or something else, and they were more self-aware than a lot of 40-year-olds you'll meet because they got that connection. That is the primal human need. It's on par with food and water, right?
Yes.
And if you have somebody leave you or die, you say stuff like, I can't eat, I can't sleep, I can't think. And that's because your brain is in that fight or flight. I need connection, and everything else is secondary.
I could not agree more. And you did a good quote in one of your videos too, saying, get good at showing people where they have value and you will never have to worry about a job. I thought that was really powerful. And I think a lot of people need to focus on that. We'll go back into TikTok because I wanted to ask you this is, were you shocked with the success you've gained so quickly on the app?
Yeah. I even like, it's like even when people are saying you're successful on it, I'm like, no. I tell people, go to my TikTok account, but you have to watch 6 videos because 5 of them are going to suck. I look at TikTok as this thing we get to play on, and it happens to be pretty good for business. But for me, I actually really enjoy making the videos. I've joked, I don't have a second account, but I need one. The problem is I make everything off the native app. I need to get more versatile, but I just love how can you design, how can you put this into 15 or a minute, or it's fun that way.
That's funny that you mentioned that too, because I think a lot of people have all these misconceptions about it, but once they get to it, they realize, wow, it's so fun to be creative again. Whereas in our workplaces, we're just so focused on doing these things that there's a part of us that love to be creative and share our stories and talk. And TikTok is just such a great tool for that. And I've noticed a lot of people who do go there are having so much fun and just enjoy creating videos. You say you want a second account so you could post more?
I could do 4 videos a day, but it's not good for the account. But Hemingway always said, throw away stuff that other people would kill to have. If you have 4 ideas, you should probably throw 2 of them away. I wrote a book a couple of years ago, and I tell people that was the 4th book I wrote because the first 3 were garbage. But for me, that's what I love about TikTok. There's a degree of anonymity in there. I think it allows people to screw up a little more, and that's
100%.
what actually leads to better content. The other apps, they're just so prescriptive that they're boring. Exactly. Whereas TikTok, like, how many times have you watched something and looked at 1 million likes on something and you're just like, what in the hell is this? Like, why? What's going on here? It seems to be more organic. The algorithm obviously influences that, but I just think that then it gives people a little more reward to originality. And
yeah, exactly. Other platforms before rewarded you for how great it was. And on Instagram, it could be just your appearance. Oh, your great face, we're going to reward you. And
which is why I've never done good on Instagram.
Yeah, same. And that's why I struggle too. The cool thing about TikTok, again, like you said, you could see these videos are like, how the heck did that do good? I could do that. Like, why am I worrying so much when that video did well? It's okay if I screw up because it doesn't matter. We're just human. And I think that's why I love TikTok, of being like that and rewarding people for all sorts of ideas versus just vanity type metrics of, wow, you're a good face, you're really funny. Because there's some people in here that are not that funny, but they end up being really funny in a sense,
Oh yeah.
and being rewarded, and they didn't even know they were like that.
And there's folks like me that think they're funny and then try to make funny TikTok videos, and they're horrendous. If you see my earlier videos, those are me dancing in the comedic space. And those are the videos I get to show to my wife. They're not the ones that people think. But again, it really just about having fun, engaging, trying to different ways. My industry is about repurposing. And what I mean by that is none of us are really having original thought. What we're doing is taking pre-existing thought and delivering in an original way.
Right.
Because it's not about, do I have the right idea? Do I have the right solution? It's, can I make this solution right for the individual hearing it? Because if it doesn't hit the individual, it doesn't matter how cool it is. It doesn't matter how right it is, because the individual's not going to do anything with it. And for me, I love when I get messages both on LinkedIn or from TikTok, or when somebody hunts me down to find my email or whatever, and are just like, hey, I tried questions on this way, or I heard your time. And I got one right now, just came in before the call, that was somebody saying, oh, I want to learn how to help people see their own awesome. And that was just something that came out of one video. And it just says, okay, the content isn't about me. It's about the person on the other side. And if it connects to them, then you're doing it right.
And that's what we were talking about at the beginning, about that authenticity. If you're creating content for you, then people will not resonate with it. There's a block there. But it's true, if you flip that switch and you are really reaching to that other person, that's when the connection happens. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people that don't know how to do that. They just are focused on themselves and their own ideas of what success should look like for them. You could just feel that disingenuine approach to it.
I've done a lot of training other facilitators and other speakers, and it's the difficulty in storytelling is we're very close to our stories. They're personal to us, and we're close to our knowledge to that degree, and we know it's helped us. And because it's helped us, we want to help people with it. But how it worked for us is not how it's going to work for that other person. And that's the bridge that most people don't cross. It's the bridge I screw up on all the time. Every one of us do it. That your story that you're telling has nothing to do with you. And if you can start to think about how can the person listening on the other side see themselves in the story, that's where to start from. It's tough. I probably screwed it up today on the TikTok I put out this morning. And I've done a lot on stage, and it's harder on TikTok because you don't get to see that on the other side, right? But on stage, when you're telling a story and you can see when somebody sees themselves in it, when it's now part of their story. And so they see themselves in the arc.
Exactly.
And that's where I think TikTok has done a really good job of helping people feel seen through the story they're watching. I see a lot on, my wife's a counselor. We see a lot on different doctors and people talking about different mental health things that they're facing. And I got to think, at least for myself, I've just watched a lot of these videos. Oh, I'm not the only one. And I just start to think that's happening on a big scale. The challenge is throwing out the crap of that, because there's some people, oh, this is what's happening to you. And it's science says not so much. But science aside, it's the being able to look into a screen and say, oh, not everything's like what I just saw on the 5 o'clock, TV shows, that I can see more images of myself. And I think that's important for marginalized communities, the BIPOC community, the LGBTQI community. And I think that they do really good on that platform. Me coming from a rural area, seeing other folks, like it's important for us as human beings to see examples of ourselves. And examples of ourselves that are doing successful things, that are being happy. If I've seen one thing a lot on TikTok, it's people saying, oh, I'm not the only one, right?
Yes.
That's so important for humans.
That's why I feel there's so much more engagement on this app than other platforms, because like on Instagram, it was a lot more picturesque, or on YouTube, it's like more presentation wise. But on TikTok, I see so many more engagements and comments of people sharing their stories. This really touched me, that I felt this. I've been through an experience like this. And I think, like you said, that's so powerful. I think that's another reason why it's so addicting too. Not only is it fun and it's geared to us, but you do feel that connection. You feel some sort of satisfaction, even though you haven't talked to anybody or anything. You feel like you've connected with people
Right.
on a
Yeah.
positive level.
Yeah.
And that's powerful. What are the top 3 most important things you've learned so far from TikTok?
Oh, don't take yourself too seriously. Number 1. Number 2 is getting 5 people that are your right people is better than getting 500 people that aren't.
Yes.
Because what will happen one day is then you'll come out with the real you. And I've seen it a lot with other content creators where
Yes.
it's, I lost 100,000 people. Well, maybe that's good because maybe they weren't your people, right?
Yes. Yes.
For me, it's don't take yourself too seriously and also have fun. You don't own the app. The algorithm can change tomorrow. The whole damn
Yes.
thing can be shut down tomorrow. If you're not having fun, turn it off. Turn the whole damn thing off. And I think that's what the interesting thing is. 90% of the people on the app are not creators. They might try a video and like, nope, that's not for me. Because the same thing is with me on Instagram, as you were talking, like when Instagram, especially when it first came out, was like pictures. Man, when I go on a trip, I take pictures of where I parked. So I remember, like, pictures isn't my thing. Sorry.
I know.
But apparently, like videos, like
Yeah.
and just doing weird stuff. I don't know if you saw, I have a whole series of jumping in the ice water.
Yes,
in the
I
middle
saw
of
that.
I started as a teacher. I'm still a teacher, and I'm fascinated with the idea of how can we take this concept and deliver it in a way that somebody gets for maybe the first time.
To ask people those questions, and a lot of times they're very similar answers. You don't even have to overthink it because that's something we do in life, but on TikTok you get to just have fun, be yourself. I love what you said. It is 100% true. People who've come on a little bit fake or made these videos and got some viral success in the beginning, and then they've geared off and finally became a lot more authentic, and then people are like, wait, what? What is this? And it's true, they have lost. And I've talked to people about that and said, look, if you lose followers, again, they weren't the right people, so don't be sad about it. Even if you lose followers, your engagement's going to grow bigger because you're getting the right people that understand. My wife's account actually did that too. She was making content she thought people would want in a sense, and then we had a talk and I was like, for your account, just be who you are, hilarious. Her account is at 160,000 followers now.
Oh, wow.
And
Great.
yeah, and it's just because she's just being silly, and her target audience is moms and teens, and she just tells it how it is from her as being a mom. She's not perfect. She tells all her stories, and people are relating to that. And teens are like, "This is so cool. I wish my mom and I had relationships like this." My daughter actually has 2.1 million followers on the app. Yeah.
That's awesome. Wow.
That's how we got really involved in TikTok, is watching her grow. But
Right.
I think what you're doing is going to work, and I do think that you're going to grow even more, because when I do see your account, it is very authentic and it's very powerful, and clearly you've had the success there, and I think people are resonating with that. Maybe we could have another follow-up in a year's time when you're at 1 million followers or whatever.
Yeah.
If you want that.
Well, I didn't anticipate 50. If I'm at 70 in a year, that's great.
No, exactly. As long as you're helping people and if it's growing, that's just a bonus. I always ask fun questions at the end here. Is what is found on your For You page? What videos do you see?
Oh, yeah. For my wife and I, TikTok is a love language, right? I hate love languages, by the way. That's a side thing. But it's certainly a way we connect. She sends me a lot, maybe like 30. So in the evening, now we don't watch TV. We just let's share on those. What's on my For You page is a lot of comedy, some political stuff, just sort of my brand, if you will, and educational. Yeah, really big. The mother effer guy. Tips from the ER.
Yes.
He's one of my favorite.
He's so dry, like his humor. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a handful of others. There's a guy, I'm horrible with handles, but his name is Dick, and he's National Guard guy. And so he gets on every morning in uniform, and it's a leadership one. And I've actually talked to him personally. I've talked to a few other creators and made some friends in there. So now I feel bad that I'm not mentioning all of them. There's a bit of a creator community there that we try to support each other. And it's great because it's not like some of the other apps. The support isn't come like my stuff. It's like, hey, how's it going? What's your ideas? What are you creating?
That's cool, because I was going to ask who your favorite creators were, but that was ties in. But I love about TikTok, some people might look at it as, oh, it's fun, but is there a connection aspect to it, because LinkedIn's really well known as the professional connection place. But I've actually had more connections that led to bigger business through TikTok than I have on LinkedIn recently, because I'm finding the people with their videos and what they're doing and speaking more than people sharing these clickbaity
And
things
it's,
on LinkedIn.
and I'm the same. People go from TikTok to LinkedIn to then talk, right?
Yeah.
But I've been blown away how many times somebody has called and said, "Hey, our CEO sent me your TikTok." Like, that it wasn't the other way around. I sent it to the CEO to blah, blah, blah. Can we go and talk to this person? And that's the whole thing. I'm at 50,000 followers. I'm surprised. I'm grateful. And at the same time, in TikTok world, I'm not a big account, but there's some really engaged folks on that. Every time I post something, there's 5 or 10 folks that I know are going to come and comment. So it feels like that community you're trying to build.
I love watching your videos, and I'm going to follow along as you develop and learn from you too, because that's one thing within my own content. Watching other people just gives you inspiration. And so every time I have a guest on my show, I learn something from them and learn a new method to be able to create videos. So I'm really grateful that we were able to chat, because I'm going to apply some of these knowledges of the things I know and be able to share my story to hopefully make somebody feel it as well. Every single one of us on this planet has a story to tell that is going to relate to somebody else.
Right.
We have endless content, and people who might be listening saying, I don't know where to start. Maybe start with that. Start with your stories.
And that's actually my biggest challenge on TikTok right now, is how do I create space where other people can tell their story? Like how to do live, because I don't think the dual live is in the US yet, is it?
It's rolled out to maybe a few select people as like a beta,
Yeah.
but it's not.
Yeah, but I don't do lives, but I think when that's available, then I will, because I would love to be able to just show people how to extract someone's story.
That would be so cool.
And do it on TikTok live, because that's where the folks that are interested in that are going. So once that's there, that's the plan. Unless somebody else sends me an idea for how to make a live not just feel like me staring into a blank camera and hoping somebody comments so I know what to say. So anyway.
No, that's a really good idea. When that rolls out, that would be really cool to see how you are able to use that. That would be really fun for sure. I think your audience would enjoy that too. I love hearing everybody's ideas with TikTok and what they're doing, and it's always so different. So I think there's a lot of value here, and I think people will learn so much. So how can people connect with you or follow you?
Finding me on LinkedIn, Brian Fretwell on LinkedIn, through TikTok, obviously, but that's a tougher mechanism. I check most of the messages in there, or go to peoplestrength.com, and there's a couple contact forms in there. Go download the questions and then email me directly, because I love nothing more than hearing stories about how people are experimenting with this stuff.
There's a form on your website?
Yeah. Right on peoplestrength.com, there's a free ebook. FIRES is an acronym for feelings, influence, resilience, ethics, and strength. There's a question for each of them with a little explainer. And if you download that, you can get some videos where I walk you through a little bit how to do it, because our hope is that more people are asking the question. That's our number one goal. So.
That's awesome. Okay. I'm going to check that out as well. Those of you that are listening right now, go to the description of this podcast episode, and you'll be able to find the show notes with all the links to peoplestrength.com to be able to fill out that form, and all the links so you can follow Brian on his social media channels. Brian, I appreciate you taking the time today to be a guest, and this was a lot of fun.
I appreciate you having me. Great conversation. TikTok's a new thing, at least for me. It's been around a little while, but it's great to chat with you about it. And it sounds like you got a fantastic podcast going. So keep it up. Yeah.
Awesome.